Hi, it's Wayne Bell with Log Home Care. Welcome back to another installment of You Ask, We Answer. We get frequent calls, usually in the spring, from people after a bad rainstorm. There's water coming through the sides of my house. It seems that in the spring, the wind drives rain in directions that the house was never intended to see rain appear from. Seeing water coming through the walls of your house is unsettling at best. After the water leaves and the wood dries, very often there are stains left behind. These are generally shades of brown, sometimes really dark brown. We refer to these as tannin stains. Tannin is the organic compound in wood that gives wood its color. And when the rain or water dissolves tannins by capillary reaction, they make their way to the surface of the log, which usually, in this case, will be the inside of your house. And the dye is deposited on the surface. So what do we do when we find brown stains? Let's talk about that first. Then we'll talk about solving the problem. Tannin stains generally originate in the center heartwood of the log, and when they become dissolved, they're transmitted to the surface, as we said, by capillary reaction. You can certainly attempt sanding the surface, but oftentimes you'll find that the tannin stains originate deep in the wood and they're deposited completely through the wood grain structure to the surface. For that purpose, getting rid of the tannin stain is generally done by bleaching it back using a chemical. In this case, we have to select a chemical that's not going to require rinsing and a chemical that has a bleaching effect. Our goal is not to completely remove the stain. That would be almost impossible. But if we can lighten the leading edge of the wood stain and make your eye less drawn to its severity, generally you can camouflage the stain and lighten it enough that it'll blend in with the rest of the wood. So some homeowners have been successful taking peroxide and bleaching out the leading edge of the stain to make it less visible. There are numerous other chemicals that might work, but those chemicals generally require bleaching at the end of the process and rinsing, and we don't have the ability to unleash water inside your home. You might try medical grade hydrogen peroxide, as it's more potent than what we normally pick up at the grocery store or the drugstore. Let's talk about the source of the water that's getting into your home. When we find water leaks on the log home, we might think that the house is leaking where the water is making an appearance, and many times this is not correct. Because of the nature of logs being stacked in horizontal courses, the water can enter the envelope of the home and travel across the tops of the logs and make its exit at the lowest point. If we simply try to correct the problem at what we think is the point that the water's exiting the log and making its way into your house, we may not solve that problem. The tool that we use for this type of work would be called a computerized blower door, and is coupled with a thermal imaging camera. Essentially, anytime that we're suspicious of the thermal envelope or the ceiling on a log home, we want to know where the water or the air or the bugs are getting in. A computerized blower door assembly is put into your man door temporarily, and a computer-driven fan assembly depressurizes the home. This is depressurized to a standard value. It's essentially simulating a 20-mile-an-hour wind striking your log home on all four sides simultaneously. Once the air is being pressurized and pulled through those voids in the log sealant system or the outer thermal envelope, the temperature of the log around those leaks will change. It will match closer to the outside air temperature. This is captured on a thermal imaging camera by walking through the home and scoping it to see where the leaks are appearing. The thermal effect of the different temperature air entering the house will register in a rainbow-like pattern on the imagery. We can capture that and produce a book or a guide to know where the house is leaking. We can quantify the amount of the leaking that the house is doing, and then it becomes a relatively simple matter to go on the outside of the home and using the proper elastomeric sealants and backer rod products seal up those leaks. For more information on that particular service or doing that for yourself, contact us at Log Home Care. When a home is sealed on the outside, when we're referring to elastomeric sealants, you might think that we're using caulk. We're not. These are specially blended products made to adhere to wood and made to remain stretchy and rubber-based compound type performance features regardless of the age of the sealant. So throughout the life of the home, the product that's used to seal up these leaks stays flexible. We use a second product called backer rod. Backer rod is a closed-cell expanded polyethylene foam material that looks similar to rope in sizes anywhere from 1/4 of an inch or larger. You might be familiar with the product if you've ever held a child's pool noodle in your hand, or perhaps pipe insulation. It's a closed cell. That's important because we don't want the foam material to absorb water and hold water in contact with the wood. Closed cell product that we use to close the gaps in the home that are allowing the water, air, or insects into the house. Then to seal it, we use the elastomeric product on the outside, and that product is available in a number of colors and blends very well with the exterior of the home. This provides a permanent sealant, and the purpose of the backer rod has a functional structural design capability of allowing the sealant to move with the home's shifting and settling and expansion and contraction without breaking. Certainly finding water inside your log home and the resultant tannin stains is unsettling. We've given you some suggestions on ways we might be able to minimize the visual effects of the leak. But to a log home professional, we're also interested in determining why the house is leaking and resolving the problem. If water is getting into the house, we do have to be careful that rot doesn't follow right behind it. So for that reason, if you find water coming through the house and we can identify where it's leaking using a computerized blower door assembly and thermal imagery, then we can address the issue of properly sealing those joints. Whether you do the work, someone else does the work, or a log home professional like ourselves does the work. Thank you for checking out our series, You Ask, We Answer. You can reach us at loghomecareonline.com.